underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome along to the Almost Pro Championship. We are here and ready to get underway for qualifying for a brand new season. First of all, I'm Tom Dillon. I'll be your commentator. And again, I do apologise for some slight technical issues just as we got into that one. But we are ready, as I said, to get into qualifying. We're going to have 3 of the qualifying sessions actually at the moment. The grid pretty full for this one, 15 drivers in all. We can actually take a look at our driver list. If we go over here, it's a very packed entry list. Just a couple of drivers not attending for this one this afternoon. And that, I believe, actually is going to be a couple of our Mercedes drivers. Other than that, the grid is on the majority full. The Alpines looking very strong. You've got league owner and one of the only drivers to have been here since the very beginning in Carl Stewart Woodward. Right there in that Alpine, his teammate is going to be Lewis Smith. Those 2 drivers, I'm sure, will be very interesting. For sure to see how they get along as we go on into this championship season. Our season 4 champion is in the Ferrari, Ethan Shackleton, so we'll be keeping an eye on his progress as well as we go on throughout the course of this season. Let's head down to the circuit then, and let's see how the drivers are getting on over there. And if it wants to play ball with me, you can see a couple of drivers already are on their out laps. They're just trying to basically get those tyres up to temperature at the early stages. Let's go down to 4th position because we've got Sam Burke here, seeing how his progress is on this track, and making his way now all the way around to that downhill right-hander, the hairpin inside of the Sauber for this one. Let's take a look at his telemetry, all of his throttle inputs and everything like that. He'll be hoping that maybe he can kick on and make a bit of progress in this championship. Of course, all starts with getting some points today. The top 10 do score, of course, and just getting those tyres up to temperature. He's got softs on, which I'm sure is pretty expected at this point in the qualifying session, but just making sure that those tyres get up to temperature. Of course, a change made a couple of years ago in the 2022 game is that with those sort of skinnier tyres, it's a lot more tricky to get them up to temperature than it was in the past, and drivers definitely are aware of that fact. But Sam Burke, I think, here will pretty much be one of the first to set his qualifying lap, and he makes his way around the final corner now, and let's see just what he can do as he goes around that final corner. It will be his first qualifying lap. Let's take a ride on board all the way around this Bahrain International Circuit. He's got hot lap mode on, down into the first corner, braking hard. 100-meter board, just dip it in with that first gear in the end. Actually interesting, just get that little bit of extra rotation, but he's quickly through the gears as he makes his way now up the hill and down into turn number 3. Looking for probably about that 50-meter board. He goes just slightly earlier, barely stretching onto the brake pedal, and then out onto 3rd, onto the outside line at the exit of that corner. A little lock up through the S's, now down the hill into the hairpin. This is one of the heaviest braking zones on the circuit, and he just about gets it absolutely perfect as Sam Burke. And this is his debut to the championship as well, so this is slightly difficult. Welcome to YouTube as well. We appreciate we've had some issues getting on. You haven't missed a great deal, but we're here finally in the qualifying session, ready to go and see, importantly, how Sam Burke gets on in this one. Into the end of his lap, we've got our first driver crossing the line. That's the pass. And Sam making his way around. It's going to be a Ferrari actually up into, for now, up into pole position with that 1 minute 28 for the first time through the final corner. And we'll see if Sam can go anywhere near to that pole position lap time. Makes his way across the line in the Sauber. And what is it going to be? It's going to be 3rd, so it's actually a pretty good offering at the moment for Sam Burke on his debut. He'll be pretty happy with that one. A couple more drivers coming in for their lap times. One of the Ferraris on pole at the moment, of course. That's Andrija Sankovic, won on his debut a little bit earlier on last season, and hoping he can maybe make some kind of play for the championship inside of this season. And certainly in that Ferrari, obviously all the cars are equal here, but certainly in the Ferrari he's got a very good chance of doing that. And a couple of drivers on their outlap looking at the Alpine of well, gamer tag Speedy Dude 10, that's Lewis Smith. He's the reigning champion of this series, of course. Just making his way out of the hairpin now, just very slow on calling this lap. Anyone else on an outlap? Looks like B14, which is, well, gamer tag Bean Machine. He's got a very interesting gamer tag. We'll see what that actually is in the Toro Rosso. I believe that's Michael Towers, but there may be a fill in there. But he makes his way across the line and does go into last. So it's not the ideal lap time for him, but actually not horrendous at all things considered. We've got a couple of drivers going for doubles. This is one of the Red Bulls. Deitch Mosbergen going through that right-handed. Use a bit more curb than you'd normally expect there. And not 100% certain whether he'll consider this one of his qualifying laps or not. Makes it round into the final corner. Certainly doesn't look like a cool lap unless he is going to go into the pits. And it's just a rather quick call. Looks like it is. So most drivers only wanting to go for the single. This is a jump up into second position for the Aston Martin. Kyle Nichols. And looks like with that line that he is going to be going again here for his qualifying run. And excuse me, just to clarify, this is Q1 on the screen. I'm still adjusting to how the newer F1 games work things. It is just a single qualifying session. I'm just clarifying with the league rules. As we've got a driver up to pole position, and it's the Haas. That's Montserrat Reversi. And my apologies again if I do butcher anyone's pronunciation of their names at any point in this. You're watching the APC Championship on YouTube for the first time, and again we apologise that we were slightly late starting, but my hope is that we are now live across all platforms and everyone is able to watch. And well, one interesting thing potentially is that we've got our first driver, I was going to say on his second lap, but actually it looks like this Alpine has backed out of his lap. Yellow flags in sector 1, just giving the drivers a bit of a caution. A few drivers then certainly going to be on qualifying laps. This is Carl Stewart Woodward, who has gone up into third position. So, excuse me, that's going to be Lewis Smith, who's gone up into third position. We were just on board with Carl Stewart Woodward. And the Alpine team looking very, very strong. A couple of drivers towards the back of the field are sitting onto qualifying laps. This is one of the two Red Bulls. So it's the Red Bull, the Ferrari, and the Mercedes who have yet to complete a qualifying lap. And we're on board with the Red Bull as he goes up into 9th position. So not a terrible lap time. 1:29.3. The field remarkably close at this point in the session. You can see, of course, everyone using the soft tyres. There'd be no real sense to not. But in terms of just trying to get the intervals up, it's not wanting to play ball there. But everyone on the soft tyres then. Interestingly, a couple of people setting their laps on 2-lap-old soft tyres. So going for that kind of double lap. We've still got 8 minutes to go in this qualifying session. So plenty of time for all of that to change. As this Red Bull being driven by, so I'm referring to my spotter's guide here. This is Jordi Lansing. he's just making his way, of course, not actually on a qualifying lap at the moment. Let's keep an eye on the Haas. This is Tata, his in-game name. Of course, it's Ongsrat Reversi. Makes his way around that right-hander. Gets a good amount of throttle application. Of course, he's on pole at the moment. He's joined on the front row by Williams as of literally a couple of moments ago. And that's Aaron McGurk, who's gone into second place. And now here he goes. Overtake is in fourth. There's yellow flags. You don't have to slow down for them. Not here. DRS is open. It's another fastest lap for this driver. 1 minute 27.3 for Ongsrat Reversi. And he'll be delighted with that. He's only got a couple of tenths of a second in hand behind, which is, of course, that Williams of Aaron McGurk. But it's not been a particularly awful start to this session for that Haas. Certainly in contention for this one. So as we've got a few other drivers who are just sort of on their qualifying laps, the Ferrari being one of them. This is Andrija Senkovican. We have got someone down in the pit lane, someone who's had to, who's unfortunately had to retire from the league due to their esports commitments. We've got Owen with us. Owen, welcome along to the broadcast. You're keeping track of all the pit stop strategies. Of course, all of our drivers at the moment on the soft tyres in qualifying. How do you expect the strategy to be as we head on into the race?
Well, hello Tom, and thank you for having me on. And in terms of a strategy, Bahrain's a difficult one because the tyre wear is so especially high at this circuit. I joined in on a practice race here last week, and the tyre wear is ridiculous on every compound other than the hards. After 10 laps in the final stint, I was on like 60% on the mediums, so in my opinion, hards to mediums is not a viable option. Around most circuits, I'd say hard to medium is the strategy I would use, but not around this one. The two-stop could be viable due to just how high the degradation is, but I say probably if you're going to do a strategy, you either want to do a soft hard or medium hard, just due to how high the deg is, because hards will go a very long time. If you can drag those soft tyres out to like lap sort of 7 or 8, then the hards will go the rest of the distance.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're just watching the Williams of Kenneth Salishk make his way up to the line. Will there be an improvement here? There is. He goes up to 7th, so 1:28.9. He's over a second off of pole position, but actually the lap time's been very close with those guys at the top of the field, so I don't think he'll be too upset about that as we thank Owen. I'll ask you a second question here, Owen, actually, very shortly. Yep. And that's actually, when I used to be all over this, it's been a while since I've come back to the F1 games. It used to be that actually in these 50% races, the two-stop became less viable purely because you didn't have the lap times to make it work. You know, it wasn't a case of, if you imagine Spain a few years ago in the real life Formula One, it wasn't a case of you actually can go and make that two-stop because you have 20 laps to go and make it work. Actually, we find that because you've only got 10 laps to try and make everything work, that you really do struggle to make that alternative strategy viable. Is that still the case now, or actually have the tyres been rebalanced a little bit?
In terms of it, the two-stop could be viable here just because the tyres die off so quickly. So unless you start managing your tyres from probably like lap 5 or something if you're on the mediums, then the degradation difference, the newer tyres are just going to be that much quicker that a two-stop could be viable. And the pit lane here it's not especially long. I believe it's about 22 seconds. And if, say, at the end of the race, someone is on 20% hards with like 8 laps to go, and you're on new mediums or softs, the tyre difference is just going to be so massive that you may just be able to make that time up. In my opinion, you'd obviously have to be quite a quick driver to do that. So some of maybe the sort of the top 6 could do that, I imagine. But I'd say if you're playing it safe, then the one stop is definitely the way to go. Although degradation will not be your friend, but the two stop could be viable for those sort of towards the top, I'd say.
Well, thank you very much, Owen. We'll speak to you hopefully at some point during the race, or at least at the end of this qualifying session. Let's get ready to go into the final runs, as most drivers just making their way around. We've had a few into the pit lane, a few back out of the pit lane now, and ready to continue on. This is one of the Williams' second position at the moment, of course, and this is Kenneth Salic, makes his way. Excuse me, sorry, this is Aaron McGurk. I'm getting used to it eventually. He's making his way down into turn 1. And we'll see what he's going to be able to do here as he makes his way through turn 1. He's pretty confident through there for now, and makes his way out into turn 3. Look to that sort of 50-meter board again, and as he makes his way around there, looks again the model of confidence really at this point in the race. Right-hander, left-hander, just keeping the car nice and poised now down the hill into the hairpin, and he's made an absolute mess of it, and that might just be his final opportunity to qualify in this one. It might have just escaped him ever so slightly there, so huge frustration for the Williams. And as he continues on in this contest, I'm sure we'll be hoping that he can kind of put that behind him and maybe take the front row hit that he's worked very hard for. Looking for 5th position then at the moment. This is the Aston Martin, makes his way over the line up into 2nd position. 1 minute 27.6. Very good lap time from Kyra Nichols. And he's only about 0.3 of a second off of the pace of that Haas, who is on pole position. Wrong's about the reverse. So all things considered, it's a good day in the office for the Aston Martin crew. I don't think he'll have too many complaints about how that one worked out for him. Let's keep an eye all across this field, really, because down in 9th position, we've got our second of the 2 Toro Rossos, or Bs, whatever you'd like to call them, and he's actually making his way into the pit lane. So his qualifying is going to be over. Actually, we have to look to a few other drivers who have gone slightly early. It's the same thing here for the teammate, of course, of Carl Stewart Woodward, Lewis Smith, who's on a lap at the moment. Slightly early, 44 seconds to go. He probably will just about be able to squeeze one more in. A massive lock up there, but he's got so much traffic just ahead of him. Have a look at this. This is not going to help his cause at all. We're right on board with the Alpine driver as he makes his way around that sort of sector, into the end of sector 2 and up to the start of sector 3. He just needs to avoid that traffic. He might go for 2 laps here. The problem is the battery charge already at 44%, so if he's going to go for another one, he's got to do it quickly. And actually, only 15 seconds left before we get the checkered flag in the session. So right now it is Haas on pole position with Rongsvat's Reversi, the Alpine of Lewis Smith, trying to change that first of all. He's going to have a little bit of slipstream here. I'm not sure how much it's going to help him as he makes his way across the line. It will be 5th position, so he does improve for my liking, but he doesn't necessarily jump up the order too much. There's also going to be that Aston Martin we're talking about, who's basically out of the session now. He's taken the checkered flag by going into the pit lane, and now on board with the other Williams. This is Aaron McGurk. I say the other Williams, it's the leading Williams at the moment, and looks like he has gone for that second lap, and as he makes his way up to the line, it's last chance for pole position for Aaron McGurk, and he's not going to take it. Tyres just weren't underneath him, and he's come into the pit lane as well. So happy with his progress in the race. That's as certain as it's another fastest lap for the Haas of Rongsvat Reversi. It's a 1:27.0, so that will be enough. His teammate trying to join him on that front row to try and get a front row lockout for the Haas team for the first time this season, of course, at round 1 here in Bahrain, as he makes his way up to the line. He's used all of his deployment, so it might not be the greatest lap time in the world, and unfortunately it's not. 1:27.9 remains his best. Still a couple of drivers trying to get a lap time in. We're on board with Kenneth Salic for the Williams team. Makes his way around the final corner now to try and just maybe sneak into that top 5. If he can get up to the line, he sneaks into the top 7, so it's not a bad lap time at all from Kenneth Salic. And just 2 drivers still to cross the line. We've got 12th position Sam Burke. Makes his way around that final corner on board with the Sauber. And makes his way into the pit lane as well. So he's not happy with that, and that is all of the drivers pretty content with how their lap times were. And I can tell you that it is going to be that Haas of Rongsvat Reversi on pole position. As we'll go back to the title card just to make sure that we don't catch any of our menu sequences, any of the what's the word? Any of the new music in the menu. But I can tell you, the order then as we get ready for a little bit of a 2-minute break into the next one, where we'll be able to drag Owen back in. But at the moment, it is Wongsavat Reversi who is on pole position, and he's going to be ahead. I'm just waiting for it to come back onto my screen as we've got the onboards all on the screen. So it's going to actually be, as I'll go back over to the in-game screen just so that I can show you what it is. It's, of course, Wongsavat ahead of the Aston Martin of in-game name Nighthawk 06, but it's Kyra Nichols in reality. And then WHF ARO, which is the Williams, of course, of Aaron McGurk. So that's your top three. And keeping an eye on those two Hasses, because the Haas teammate, Sonny Leonard, is sitting in 4th position at the moment. So there's plenty to play for as we head on into this race. We've got a bit of a 2-minute countdown here before we head into the lobby for the race. And we'll bring back in Owen. Owen, welcome back to the stream. Just how important is hello? Just how important is this race start on the lights here at Bahrain?
Bahrain is always a mess at turn 1, just because of how turn 1 is. It's such a sharp hairpin that I'd say it's not particularly an especially long run to turn 1. I'd say at Bahrain you want to stay out of trouble, just because you're going to have more opportunities to overtake later in the race, because there's 3 DRS zones here at Bahrain, so overtaking is very possible. The best way to put it is, don't try to fix your race on the first lap. If you've qualified lower down, take your time, pick your way through the field if you can. Just be a little bit careful, because Bahrain obviously does have some very close walls in Sector 1. We saw that back in 2020 when Romain Grosjean was obviously thrown into the barrier and obviously into a ball of flames. But just be careful is what I'd say in the first few laps at Bahrain. And don't cook your tyres, because the tyres can cook here in terms of temperature.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very hot. The reason they moved this race actually over to the night time was effectively for this reason. We'll head down to the track as we're waiting for the drivers to be ready. As I said, that was one of the reasons why they moved it to the night time here, just because of how much cooler it was. It was one of the hottest races on the calendar. If you remember Malaysia as well, that used to be a very similar scenario. When does the pit window open then, Owen? When you're talking about your one-stop strategy, when would you expect that pit window to open? First of all, for the people who choose the soft tyre, and then of course for the people who choose an alternative tyre.
Well, I saw drivers in that practice race take the softs nearly 10 laps, which to me is an incredible effort. But I'd say the pit window for softs is probably open from about lap 7, mediums probably about lap 10, and then hards you're probably going to end up going to like lap 18 or 19, which is why I say the hards are just not a viable starting tyre, because of how long you are on them compared to when the other drivers are on fresher tyres. You'll just lose far too much time to make up in the second stint, is what I'll say.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the considerations that we're going to have as we go on through this. I apologize, my game keeps pausing every time I make a change in OBS. It's very frustrating, but we are just waiting for this to happen. So, having seen what you've seen in qualifying, you've got general knowledge about all of the drivers, given that you used to race this championship yourself. Who are you looking at after that qualifying session and going, yes, you definitely... in fact, to go back to that, we've got the lights and we're on to the formation lap. But yeah, so after that session, who are you looking at and saying that's going to be a championship contender as we head on through this one?
Well, the big one is our pole man, Wongsavat Reversi. I had quite a fierce fight with him last season for a pole position in Brazil. If you want to go watch that, watch it. It was a brilliant qualifying. And he's, especially this game, a very, very fast driver. He's improved a hell of a lot in comparison to where he was in the last game. I am an esports academy driver, and I actually at points struggled to keep up with him. He is a very... very fast driver. Obviously, you want to take into consideration our reigning champion, Lewis Smith. Very, very consistent driver. And another one I've got my eye on is Andrea Chenkovan, or Chenky95 in the game, who, again, really consistent driver and just...
It's not a good start.
I saw that. I'll go back to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one sort of reversing thing there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Owen, thank you very much. I'll let you finish your point quickly before we let you go, and we'll drag you back in during the pit stop phases.
But yeah, I was talking about Andrea Chenkovan, very, very fast driver, very consistent. His main part of his driving is how consistent he is. I've never really seen him make any major mistakes or anything like that. So I'd say those are probably the 3 drivers I have my eye on at the moment. But there's others as well. Like my friend is going to be racing in this championship, Alex Brown. That's my friend. He'll be a strong contender. Not for the championship, but he'll be up there. He'll be there or thereabouts as well today. So I'd say those are probably the drivers that I have my eye on going into this race.
Well, thank you very much. We've got Kyron Nichols just making his way on to the grid to get the start of this race underway. And well, as he makes his way into his grid slot, just a couple of burnouts to get those tyres properly up to temperature. We've got a few spinners at the back as well. That's not ideal. We thank Owen for his time in that one. And we get ready for this race to get underway. Everyone just taking their grid slots. There we go. Unfortunately, won't let me take Owen's name off the screen, but we'll go back to that in a second. Ready to get underway then for the first race of APC, and it's lights out and away we're going. It's a good start for Reversi from pole position, who's going to get clear as they make their way into turn 1. The Aston Martin just behind him of Kyron Nichols doing his best to try and make up something, and does. It's a dive into the first corner. Everyone else just about navigates through okay, and as they make their way on the exit of that first corner, it is Kyron Nichols in to the lead, but for how long? Because here goes Reversi to the outside line, trying to make his way through into number 3, but isn't quite able to do so. So on pole position on the soft tyres is Kyron Nichols at the moment. So we're in the lead of the race, in pole position to go on and win this race at this stage. Further behind, there's been a couple of positions that made up for the 2 Williams. They now run in at 6th and at 7th, but at the front of the field, it looks like it's pretty comfortable for the Aston Martin at this stage in proceedings. However, we have got a 10-second penalty already going out to the second Williams. That is, the second Williams, one of the Red Bull cars, of course, of Alpine's even. And that's Carl Stewart Woodward has already got a penalty inside of this one for a slight infringement over there. But as we make our way towards the end of this first lap, you can see not many people choosing the alternate strategy here, just a handful, most people on those soft tyres, and everyone else makes their way through into the final corner. And starting with, of course, Kyron Nichols. So 10 seconds has gone out to Carl Stewart Woodward as everyone else makes their way into the timing loop for the second time. There's a bit of a battle further behind. You can just see the Ferrari. I'm trying to get a camera shot of that. You can just see the Ferrari for 7th position trying to get a spot, and he does. That is Andrea, I should say, Kenkovan, who makes his way through at that part of the circuit. Kenneth just behind him, the other Williams, just the driver that just got overtaken, and actually now trying to split these Williams in 2 is the Ferrari of Andrea Kenkovan. The other Williams, of course, being driven at the moment by Aaron McGurk, and we'll see if the Ferrari is able to make much headway in that battle over there as they go through into the hairpin. Just in the background, DRS not enabled just yet, of course. 29 laps available to the drivers in this race into the most heavy braking zone on the circuit, really. the one that catches everyone out. And it looks like that battle is just away from them as it stands. Kari then at the top of the field, 4/10 of a second, trying to break DRS in the first 3 laps or so of this race. Has a little wiggle on the exit of the left-hander. That might just bring the Haas back into contention. One of the other Alpines actually in that top 3. So that's your reigning champion, Lewis Smith, who's about where you'd expect him to be, but he's under pressure from the Haas teammate of course Reversi, which is being driven by Sonny Leonard, as we're all going to be battling here for the lead of the race. We're right on board with the Haas at just the back of this pack, trying to get himself ahead of Lewis, your previous season champion. They are now going to have DRS as the fastest lap switches hands very quickly, but the problem is it's a little bit difficult. Battle for the lead then at the top of the field as here goes Reversi down the inside line, trying to find his way through. He's got Kyra Nichols all the way around the outside line to just about take that tighter line and at the position. Let's run on board with the Haas as he tries to get back at him, and into turn 3 looks like the DRS is just going to be in the favour of Kyra Nichols, as he was just ahead at the detection zone, and that's going to be how it is at the at this stage in the lap. There's also a battle further back, as I can see Sam trying to make his way past Stuart Woodward. Actually, we've got oh no, it's Kyra Nichols. He's gone round, and the man who took pole position away really at the first corner and got himself into the driving seat for this race has gone around and into 8th positions with the recovery drive for him. We'll stay riding on board with the Aston Martin for just a moment here, as that's mightily frustrating stuff for him, I'm afraid to say. Just see how those tyres are. Just in front of him as well. Wow, that's dramatic. That is the other Williams actually, and so actually the Williams, that's Kenneth Salic, the Williams who were driving so well in this one have all of a sudden found themselves struggling a little bit. They've got one of them up in 5th position, the other one struggling ever so slightly. So this is looking at Reversi as he's giving DRS to the Alpine just behind him, who is going to, well, start to pull away from Reversi's teammate. Move for 5th position. This is a good drive actually, all things considered, for Senki. Goes around the outside, trying to make his way through into 4th position on the RB car. And by the looks of things, they're going to stay side by side here as they go down into turn 3. This is Lucas Sorensi that he's trying to overtake. Goes around the outside, is going to be 3 wide very briefly, and looks like he's able to find his way through. Involved in that was Aaron McGurk. However, Aaron able to get through, now tries to get himself past the Ferrari as well. Aaron McGurk on the outside line isn't quite able to find his way through though, and the Ferrari holds on for the time being and tries to stay in check here, and does that just about. So it's 5/10 of a second between 1st and 2nd, 5/10 of a second between 3rd and 4th. We're waiting probably about 5 laps or so for those first pit stops to really start to come into it here, as the soft tyre runners try and get themselves into the pit lane. Let's remind you of where we are with that strategy situation. Those are the positions gained and lost, as at the moment Reversi on pole position is looking pretty good. 3 laps for all of the runners, of course, no one making a big stop just yet. Soft tyres for the majority of the field. However, that Williams in 5th position on the medium tyres. Hards for a few of the drivers at the very back of the field, but at the moment, certainly soft tyres are the ones to be on. They were keeping an eye on Aaron McGurk, who of course is on those on those medium tyres at the moment, and still lapping very quickly. And I say lapping very quickly, has just been overtaken by the RB, but goes back down the inside as Aaron McGurk and holds on to 5th position. So delighted with his progress at the moment, given the fact he's got the tyre disadvantage, but losing sight of the Ferrari just ahead as we've got yellow flags in sector 1. That is the Red Bull of in-game name, just Jord NL. And again, just using my spotter's guide at this point in the season, I do apologise. And that is Jordi Lansing, who's gone around there. So slightly frustrating stuff for him. And we can switch back to the lead of the field, where actually Reversi has managed to gain a bit of time on Lewis Smith in 2nd position, and broken DRS more crucially in this one. That is allowing him to bring his teammate into play, and his teammate will be ready to pounce very shortly, I'm sure. His teammate, of course, Sonny Leonard. All right on board with the Haas for a moment. little bit too far back, I fancy, at the moment. Let's keep an eye on the Williams as well of Aaron McGurk as he goes through the final corner. He's got so much time gained on that Ferrari, and he's going to have DRS as well as they make their way into turn 1. That snake, as everyone just tries to break the DRS, break the slipstream at this point. He's got the DRS as Aaron McGurk. The Ferrari ahead of him hasn't, so it should be a relatively straightforward move for him. You can see a puff of tyre smoke just in the background. Is puff of tyre smoke from Aaron McGurk as well, but the Williams is through and into 4th position on the inside line. A well-made move, but is there going to be a comeback here from the Ferrari, who gets a fantastic run out of turn 2, back to the inside line, trying to find his way through, but backs out of it in the end, and Aaron McGurk is into 4th position. Fantastic progress at this point in the race. I think there was a mistake for Sonny Leonard here in 3rd position. He's lost about a second or so to Lewis Smith in 2nd position, and actually ahead of him sees now that the top 3 very far apart, needing a safety car of some description to try and bring this back into contention. As he's almost round, he's very, very close to having a bit of a tank slapper done on him there, is Sonny Leonard, but able to just keep that car collected. Let's go back to the battle for 4th position. It's the Ferrari of Andrea Senkovan trying to do something to get back past the Williams, and I'm afraid unless Aaron McGurk can break that DRS, I think the Ferrari is going to have a relatively straightforward time getting back past him in this one. We'll ride on board again. As you can see, it's just 0.4 of a second between those two drivers. Now go into the final corner, looking for that braking point. A little bit of a lock-up from the Williams. Let's see what the battery charge percentage is. It's 82% at the moment for the Williams, who's, for the Ferrari even, who's going to absolutely sail by. Senkovan through, and it's basically as you were in that battle from just a lap ago. And also actually a move for 6th position, as this is Kyra Nichols trying to get back into it after really struggling with that spin, and he's got a fantastic amount of overspeed here, but the RB just in front of him, we've got the DRS, so sort of averages itself out, but he's so much faster here, Cairo, as he gets a little bit of a slide on out of the exit of turn 3, now goes into the S's section. Not really an overtaking opportunity. We're going to stay on board with him because, oh my word, they've taken each other out. No real fault there. The RB checked up in front of him. It's front wing damage for Cairo Nichols, whose day goes from bad to worse, and I'm afraid to say the RB car that he was battling with at that stage, which was driven by what I can only assume is Michael Towers, with the name that I can see on the screen. It's well, going to be a trip into the pits very early for Nighthawk, although I don't think it'll actually, Nighthawk, excuse me, Kyra Nichols, but I don't think actually it'll affect him a great deal, because we're right on that pit window anyway, so we can kind of stomach the loss and move on with it. Let's go back to that battle that involves the Williams of Aaron McGurk. He makes his way into the final corner. We'll be right on board with him, the telemetry up. Lap 8 of this race, certainly Aaron going longer than the drivers ahead of him on those medium tyres, isn't able to find a way through, is in fact in the background. We've got a move, and that is Carl Woodward-Smith. Makes his way through, but only makes his way through by virtue of the pit stops. Sorry, Stuart Woodward, my apologies. I'm getting your name slightly wrong, which is a shame. As he is, of course, the guy who runs things here, Kyle Stuart Woodward, my apologies. And a few drivers in to the pit, so a good opportunity to drag Owen back in. Pit stops happening, majority of it being the soft tyre runners. It's all those drivers at the very back of the field now. What are we saying here? We're going to the end?
If they go on to hards 100%, the hards will go that long, I reckon. By the end of the race, they'll probably be on about 50% tyre wear, roughly. But if they go mediums, then of course we'll expect them in again. They could even go softs at this phase, go soft, medium. But if they're going hards, then they're 100% going to be very comfortable to the end, I'm sure.
Well, we can see Sam Burke here on medium tyres, suggesting that he's going for a 2-stop then, or is he going to try and stretch those right to the end?
Mediums will never go to the end. Just put it simply, they won't last more than about 13 laps, and then you'll be in puncture range. So I expect Sam Burke to be in again. I expect him in probably by about lap 21. So yeah, we'll see. I can see the RB that you're on board with is on hard, so I expect him to go to the end. But anybody that goes onto the mediums, I don't expect to go to the end. No.
Yeah, almost collects himself.
Big
Thank
old
you.
slide there.
Yeah, big slide. That's been a thing in the games for years. Well, thank Owen, and we'll throw back to him a little bit later on as a few more drivers into the pit lane. One of the Williams off of his soft tyres. That's Kenneth Salic trying to get those tyres off of that car. And he's onto hards, as we're pretty much expecting. So I'm not a fan of the two-stop strategy, not in a race like this where you physically don't have the time to make up that advantage. You need to be gaining about 3 seconds or so a lap. But I'll tell you who hasn't really been too bothered by the pit stop phases at the moment. There's these two drivers here, Andreas Senk and of course Aaron McGurk. Both of them still stay right next to each other, and those soft tyres clearly not optimal at the moment for the Ferrari as he makes his way into the left-hander, taking that esports line. Again, it's been a thing for a few years now, and Aaron McGurk, you can see already that visually the gap between the mediums and the softs is starting to increase, as we've got a 3-second time penalty going in for again, I'm assuming is Lucas Sorensi, who's Demon Ross up. His teammate Michael Towers is the Mad Biscuit on your timing screen. That being said, those softs still seem to have a little bit of kick in them here, but I wouldn't be surprised where you don't see the Ferrari into the pits this lap. He stays out, so that's very interesting. Trying to work with the medium tyre run. I suppose he's thinking he's losing about 3 seconds a lap or so, about 5/10 a lap I should say, and he makes the move pretty comfortably. If he's losing about 5/10 a second a lap and he's gaining that back with DRS, then there's no real problem. Who also staying out is Carl Stewart Woodward, and he makes his way out of turn 2 and turn 3, and on soft tyres, staying out for a very long time. So new race leader, it's going to be Andrea at the very top of the field in that Ferrari. Senkovan trying to repeat, of course, what Ferrari did in the real world a couple of days ago, taking victory. Of course, it's really going to be slightly more difficult for him here because got that Williams all over the back of him, and I think actually maybe we're seeing that Aaron McGurk is struggling a little bit with his tyre wear as well, as when you're trying to catch up to all these drivers, a bit of back market traffic as well already. That's Tice in the Red Bull. I think he's had a spin or something at some point in this race. Wouldn't be surprised if we see both drivers into the pit lane at this point in proceedings, because that problem with the strategy now is that, of course, there isn't necessarily too much of an advantage for Aaron McGurk, unless he's going for the two-stop, which is a very brave strategy. Unless he can extend those mediums as he stays out. So he's going to try and extend those mediums. We're suggesting maybe as the Ferrari comes into the pits and Aaron gets some DRS as well, suggesting that maybe any medium runner is going to go onto a two-stop here, as there is the hard tyres onto the Ferrari. You can extend this first stint, but now the problem is that Aaron McGurk is losing time at all times to every single medium runner. It's only 13 seconds back to what would be the net lead of the race. Of course, with Ersi, who was on pole position, and despite losing the lead in the opening stages, ends up back in the lead pretty comfortably, at least in terms of the net lead at this point. Looking at the other Ferrari, Ethan Shackleton, who we haven't really spoken about too much in this race. He's been relatively quiet, and he's just behind that RB car at the moment of Michael Towers. Seems to have a new username, that's what's been confusing me around the RBs. A few battles for the final points paying permissions, as well as there goes the Haas of Sonny Leonard on the outside line, trying to get a shot of it, and he's making a very brave move. Didn't really see him go for that, and then all of a sudden back on the inside line, able to squeeze his way through, and now can try and attack the Red Bull, the RB, as well, as he looks to the outside maybe. No way through there, just going to have to keep it calm. He's got such an overspeed though, and he's going to maybe show his nose. He's going to stay sensible, and probably going to do it with the DRS next time around. And out of that corner he goes, trying to still get that slipstream. We'll see what the DRS situation is going to be for Sonny Leonardo. Really should be fighting for a podium position here. He's lost a lot through the pit stop phases, and I would suspect this is going to be pretty straightforward for him, as he watches that RB come into the pit lane. So he hasn't actually come into the pits yet, and it will allow Sonny Leonard to make his way back through. But it's a speeding in the pit lane penalty for the RB. That's the number one thing you want to avoid. Track limits happen in these games, but speeding in the pit lane is so avoidable. Just overcooked it slightly. It's a very difficult pit lane here at Bahrain. Of course, I will forgive him for that. But on lap 12 of this race, that's a massive dent in the progress of the RB, driven by Michael Towers. And yeah, hugely frustrating as we follow along with the Alpine teammate of Carl Stewart Woodward, which is Lewis Smith, reigning champion, and on a new set of, at this stage, with one stop completed, a new set of medium tyres, sits in second position, really. Still watching Aaron McGurk, who's still staying out here, and his tyres must be screaming at this stage. He's lost 3 seconds in about 2 laps to the driver behind him. And really not been an ideal situation for him. 10.1 seconds now between himself and the driver behind us. Kyrian Nichols makes up a position. That is going to be on the RB car as Kyro gets through on that outside line. And Lucas Renzi, and watch him go through, I'm afraid to say. What Kyrian Nichols actually put on, he's put medium tyres on. That's Sam Burke who's put medium tyres on. Looking at the Aston Martin, he's also got mediums on, so I was correct, as into the pit lane comes the Williams, and it's hard tyres. So that's very interesting. I'm not sure what he gained. We'll bring Owen back in, and Owen, my reading of that with the hard tyres is that effectively what's happened is he's tried to go for a bit of a conservative strategy, one stop medium to hard, and unfortunately he's actually lost quite a lot despite some good work in that first stint.
Yes, there is that, but for the next 16 laps, he is going to have the best tyres on the grid. And in F1 24, having the better tyres, I've found, is generally what you want. So that's why I always say hard to medium is generally, in a 50% race, the more viable strategy. At Bahrain, not so much due to degradation, but I think he probably just extended those couple of extra laps started on the mediums so he could have the fresher tyres to the end, and eventually he will slowly gain back what he lost in comparison to Chenkovan. So that sort of 5 seconds he lost, I reckon sort of by the end of the race he will have gained that back, and that might end up helping him finish in front of Chenkovan. I reckon that's what his approach to this strategy has been.
Well, thank Owen, and we'll drag him back in later. First of the Ferraris is dispatched by Aaron McGurk, so I didn't necessarily read it the same as that, with the fact that he had those very favourable tyres now going on through the rest of this race. But we'll see if it helps him at all as he makes his way into the final corner, chasing after Chenkovan, and now also chasing after, of course, the lead of this race as well. That's your Esports Academy driver. Expert in the booth, and we thank him for his input throughout the course of the day. Let's go back to the RB fight with the Aston Martin. This is Luca Cerenzi, and he's trying to make something work into turn 1, but without a lot of DRS, as there is, well, into the pit lane. The Ferraris, that's in-game name Shark Attack, and his real name is Ethan Shackleton. Of course. So maybe he was just left out there a little bit to cover off Aaron McGurk slightly and just try and make as much of a fight of it as he can, but didn't really necessarily work. As we go back to Aaron, who's really one of the main kind of protagonists of this race, I feel. And as he makes his way into the left-hander, he's trying to chase after, and at the moment he's taking a little bit of time out. Let's take a let's take a look at the lap times, but I'm afraid I can't do that. Let's take a look at where the drivers are, and at the moment the best improved driver is Lewis Smith here in second position, 3 positions up from his starting point. Actually, Sam Burke as well, doing very well a little bit further down. Everyone has completed 1 stop then, and just the one of them we think is going to have to do another one as we're over halfway through into this race. We're actually just about on halfway through into this race, and the main story of the day has been this man right here, the Haas driver, Rongsvat Reversi, and actually how strong Haas have been as overall, of course, as we take a look at his teammate of Sonny Leonard. Both of them have been so quick in this race, and actually certainly looking the best to compete, to fight for that Constructors' title in this very early stage in the season. As I believe there was a little spin very briefly for Sam Burke, of course his full name is Sam Burkett. Racing on the PlayStation. The thing about that Haas pair, of course, is that both of them very strong. 3-second time penalty as well to one of the drivers further down in the field. That's the other McLaren, which is currently being driven by Adam Watson. But yeah, they're both very, very good drivers. However, maybe slight dark horses for this championship. We'll wait and see how it's going to equal out. I want to go back into the battle for 6th position, because we've currently got a fight going on where Lucas Sorensi trying to get himself ahead of Pyro Nichols. Riding on board with the RB driver. Certainly not straightforward at this point. Actually, it's just lost a little bit of time, 8 tenths of a second or so. With that 3-second time penalty as well, this isn't really an ideal situation for the RB driver. However, look at how much he's gained in the first phase. We'll stay with them for a moment as he makes his way out of turn 3, down into, well, yeah, it's turn 3, into turn 4, of course, at Bahrain. And as it stands, hasn't really got too much to do. Battle behind as the other Williams, Kenneth, has been overtaken. Of course, that is Kenneth Salic. Right on board with the Williams driver as he tries to get back ahead of Bean Machine. Of course, real name is Michael Towers. Definitely username of the day, that's for sure. Not sure about driver of the day, but as we make our way out of the left-hander, looks like Kenneth Salic is just losing a little bit of time here, and very, very frustrating for him. So we'll stay with them for a moment. Also want to move back into that battle at the top of the field for 7th position between, of course, the RB and the Aston Martin. We'll stay here for a moment because there is DRS available for Kenneth Salic, as actually I think there's also a spin for Cairo Nichols. Was he into the pit lane? He's into the pit lane, so it's a 2-stop strategy for Kenneth, for Cairo Nichols, excuse me. And wow, I wonder if that was actually a drive-through penalty of some description, because I don't know if he's put new tyres on, but certainly for now, looks like it's the 2-stop strategy being applied for Kenneth Salic, and it is, sorry, Kenneth Salic, excuse me, Cairo Nichols. So we'll drag back in Owen and Owen Boldero. That is, that's interesting.
I'm not too sure what compound he was on, but I believe he was one of the ones that started on the softs and then fitted the mediums. I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's a strategy he went for, and if that's the case, then it was expected. I'm more so surprised by his choice of compound. If you're gonna do the 2-stop, I personally would have waited until the end of lap 18 and then just gone to hards. I would have waited like another lap or two. Sorry, mediums, gone to mediums instead of the hard tyre, because then you'll have the tyre advantage to the end. But the hards are definitely, I'd say, an interesting choice unless he used to set in qualifying, which is what some people do. But hards are definitely a surprising choice to the end, considering how much we have left in the race.
There's a battle going on. Excuse me, thank you very much, Owen, for your input, but we had to talk about this because it's so interesting between the Ferrari of Andrea Senkovan and Of course, Sonny Leonard in the other has the teammate to your race leader at the moment, and they were squabbling all the way out of turn 2 and making their way into turn 4. Now as they go out to sector 2, looks like the battle's fallen away a little bit. This is playing into the hands of a man who's 2.9 seconds back from the battle at the moment, of course, is Aaron McGurk. And with 11 laps to go in the race, Aaron hasn't really made the progress that he would have wanted after that pit stop phase, and now through the left-hander, still all over the back of the Ferrari. Is just ahead is a bit of backmarker traffic. We see the Williams make his way through on this little bit of a chase scene that we've got going on at the moment. And Sonny Leonard through the right-hander. He's again just a little bit awkward through there. So this is the double Haas podium that's on the line as we wait and see if there's going to be a move here for Andrea Senkovan, who really deserves a podium. He's driven very well throughout qualifying into this race as well. And the slipstream immediately moved over to be broken by the Haas of Sonny Leonard, and trying to get to the outside line is Senkovan, and he does, and he gets through very, very simply. As what's happened here for 5th position, as actually watching the Alpine into the pit lane, went onto the medium tyres. I didn't necessarily spot that. He went onto the medium tyres and now has had a double pit stop. So he's on the 2-stop as well, which now means that that battle was for 2nd position. The double Haas podium stays alive, and actually, all of a sudden, despite the fact he's losing a little bit of time at the moment, Aaron McGurk finds himself very much in position to try and fight for that podium into the last 10 seconds of the race. So sorry, last 10 laps of the race. So apologies, I had to cut you off there, Owen. We'll drag you back in again. I didn't personally think the 2-stop would necessarily be that viable. I might have to put you off again in a moment, because we have got this 2 Ferraris, the Ferrari and the Haas battling, because I will actually go to Owen in a moment, because we have got that side-by-side action between Sonny Leonard and the Ferrari of Andrea Senkovan, but doesn't want to go through there. He will just be giving up the position on the straight. So very quickly, Owen, as we welcome you back, 2-stop for the reigning champion there for Lewis Smith. He's going to get some points from it.
Yeah. He was on, I'm pretty sure he was on the hard tyres, so I wouldn't necessarily say I expected that one, but he obviously didn't feel he could carry those tyres to the fresh set boots. Is he on, what compound is he on? He's on the medium tyres?
I believe so, yeah, he's on the medium.
He's probably on the, at this phase of the race, I'd say he's on the medium, so he'll catch probably the RB, and that will probably be the limits of his progress, I'd say. But nonetheless, it'll still be some points, and he should be happy with that, I'd say, considering obviously he tried the 2-stop strategy, whilst most ahead of him tried the 1-stop. So yeah, I think he'll be quite happy with that.
So thanking Owen again, our expert who's in the back channels for this one, as actually not necessarily straightforward for that driver, Lewis Smith, at the moment, as we see the Williams was kind of pressuring him a little bit into the previous corner, but has now, on throttle application, as you'd expect, with the significant tyre disadvantage, started to lose a little bit. I'm still keeping a very keen eye, of course, on Lewis Smith's progress in 6th position. He's got 1.5 seconds to catch up to the RB in 5th position and to get a top 5, which would still be a very good result. But also, actually, want to keep an eye on McGurk here as he makes his way. Aaron McGurk, as he makes his way to complete his 20th lap of the race. He's got almost a second taken out of the 2 in front of him just on this lap. So as they've been battling, he's been brought back into the fray. And I don't think his pace has necessarily been as good as the 2 ahead of him, but certainly he's in this fight for the podium positions now. And there's a fight going on just ahead of him as well. Let's ride on board with the Haas, who's 0.7 of a second behind. It looks a lot more when you're on board than it might do when we're on the external shots. And as he gains a good chunk of time into the first corner, tries to get the throttle down nice and early to battle with Andrea Senkovan, who's looked very strong himself throughout the course of this race for that 2nd position. And on the throttle application isn't really able to do much, but I can tell you that Aaron McGurk has caught up another chunk, about 1/10 of a second or so. He's really, really pushing. Let's look at the battery charge, 30%, so he might need to chill out a little bit on that, not use the overtake as much as he has been necessarily doing in the last couple, as we've got a spinner somewhere in the field as well. We'll stay on board with the charging Williams at this point in the race, as he's almost completely locked up. He's now got DRS, so a crucial moment in the fight as he watches the Haas and the Ferrari battle in front of him. He's got the DRS, he's got the ability to now take this really into his own hands. And now going through the right-hander, just kissing that curb on the right-hand side. Really, really interesting to see what happens into the first corner here as we ride on board with this Williams driver. Makes his way out of the final corner. It's so close between all three of these drivers battling for the top three. Let's stay on board with the Williams as he watches those drivers in front of him try and battle along. He's only 5/10 of a second behind, so actually on throttle reapplication is going to start to battle. We'll go to the Ferrari, see what's going on with him as he's under so much pressure from Sonny Leonard for second position. We've got Lewis Smith setting the fastest lap of the race. He's charging as he's now got past for sixth position, trying to chase after the second of the two RBs. That's Luca Serencini that he's looking to get past and has got past him as well on this lap. So let's get a shot of the end of that on the DRS into turn 4. He's been able to find his way through, and I suspect with the advantage there won't be too much of a squabble there. 12 seconds at the lead of the race. Let's focus back in on this battle right here because it's blockbuster stuff between the Ferrari, the Haas and the Williams. Andreas Seventh at the top of the order now. That's Andrea Senkovan, of course. Excuse me for my butchering of people's names. Just behind is the Haas of Sonny Leonard, and then of course Aaron Girk sitting in the rear of this train at the moment as they go now into the final corner. Lap 23 of 29. You're watching the Almost Pro Championship. And all of a sudden we're going to see a battle as the Haas gets the DRS open. The Williams gets the DRS open, and the Williams are really at the rear of this, needs the two ahead of him to start battling. I think this might be the moment. Is there going to be a dive from the Haas? He certainly thought about it, just tucked back in behind and wasn't going to give up that opportunity there, as there's going to be a 3-second time penalty. But this is a fantastic exit, as a bit of a mistake from the Williams of Aaron McGirt gives the Haas the license to go, as down the inside line goes Sonny Leonard. Back to the outside is Senkovan, as he can't quite hold on. It's on the inside for the Haas, and it's going to be through and safe for Sonny Leonard. At this point in the race, we go to a Haas 1-2 for the first time in the race. And now all of a sudden, Aaron McGurk is on the inside and starting to fight as well. He's on the outside to snatch the podium away from the Ferrari driver of Andreas Senkovan. Not able to do so just yet, but the number 7 car with the DRS again, we're going to possibly be 3 wide by the end of this straight. That's how close it's going to be. The drivers don't technically favour going 3 wide at that part of the track, certainly not battling at that part of the track. So it's going to be interesting as we make our way on to the straight next time by. We'll stay focused in on that Williams as he tries to not get too greedy into the final sequence of corners. But everyone is so close together on board with Aaron McGurk as the Ferrari's squabbling and squirming, as actually he's been let through. He's been let through to this strategy going on as well from the Haas, and oh my word, all over the grass is Aaron McGurk there. He's going to have an opportunity to fight the Haas of Sonny Leonard, as this is an opportunity to see the tyre performance graphic, all of them in prime condition, as there goes Aaron McGurk down the inside line for second position, now ahead of Andrea Senkovan. Senkovan back on the inside line, holds onto it for now, but Aaron McGurk at least up 1 position ahead of the Haas. Here we go, DRS available for a second time. Not for Aaron McGurk though, because oh my word, they take each other out, and Aaron McGurk is into the wall and out of the race, and it's a safety car for the first time in the race as well. Dramatic scenes towards the end, and that is absolutely heartbreaking for a man who had driven the race of his life. It ended in tears, and boy, did it end in tears. We'll drag in Owen once again, because right now we've got a safety car towards the end, and suddenly a question as to whether you pit. If I was our race leader, I'm certainly thinking about a pair of soft tyres at the moment.
I think 100% if you're anyone, if you're Wongsrat Reversi, Andrea Chenkovan, or Sonny Leonard, you 100% pit because you've got a nice gap behind you. You pit for some soft tyres. If anybody pits behind you, you're going to lose the position at this phase just because of how powerful the softs will be for like the final 3 laps. So I expect most of the grid in all honesty. That generally happens in most league races I'm in when there's a late safety car. So I'd say most of the grid will be in, but 100% the top 3 will be in 100%, and this has thrown the podium wide open as well, I'd like to say. Sonny Leonard has a 3-second time penalty. Obviously that could derail his podium hopes, and that could bring Lewis Smith back into the equation. Obviously he was catching on the fresher tyres. You'll probably come in as well, get some Sonny Leonard the podium.
So Reversi stayed out. We're on board with Lewis Smith, who has made his way into the pit lane. Probably going to have 2-3 laps left after this one. And after the safety car, I should say. And trying to get out of the pit lane. This is going to be a huge, huge opportunity for Lewis Smith, who, as I was saying, has suddenly got himself into a fantastic position. Let's take a look at the Haas then of Reversi. That 3-second time penalty is crucial, as Owen said. We'll keep you on the line for a moment, Owen Boldero. I'm sure you've been in this position plenty of times in your life. What chances do you think there is here, as the top 3 haven't pitted? So I'll show you all the tyre strategy here. As, oh, they have pitted, excuse me. So I didn't spot that actually, but Reversi's pitted, so has Andrea Senkovan, and actually so has Sonny Leonard, but Sonny is on the medium tyres. That has got to have been a mistake.
Mediums are certainly an interesting tyre at this phase, unless he burned through all 3 sets in qualifying, which is obviously something that could have happened, but I now expect Lewis Smith to be on the podium. If Sonny Leonard has chosen them mediums, it's either a mistake, as you said, or it's he used all 3 sets in qualifying. Could have obviously boxed other than Sam Burke, which is quite interesting. So I expect him to tumble down the order a little bit on the restart. But this is going to be a 4-way fight for the win, I reckon. Between Chinglan, obviously our leader, Wongstar at Rearcy, Sonny Leonard, I believe his name is. Sorry, I'm not too familiar with some of the names, and then Lewis Smith as well. I reckon these guys will just DRS each other along for the final sort of 2-3 laps. I think DRS will probably only be active for the final lap, but we're going to have a very exciting battle for the race win, I'll say.
We are. I would expect the safety car to be in this lap. That being said, the field hasn't bunched up that much, has it? So maybe we'll squeeze one more in and have 2 laps to go. I don't know what the situation is on this year's game. A couple of years ago, the entire field had to be in sector 3 for the safety car to come in, unless it was the penultimate lap, I think, then it would just come in anyway. Is that how it works this year? How's the technical?
It's similar in this game, and with Tyres Mosberg is so far behind because obviously it's his AI that is racing for him. So it may just be that it might leave him behind, but we'll see. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe it works in a similar way this game. That all cars have to be within 10 car lengths of the safety car for it to come back in, or at least in sector 3 for it to come in, so we'll see.
Well, certainly it's going to be an interesting one. The safety car might be in this lap. If it's not in this lap, then we'll have one more lap of safety car, I'm sure. Certainly no more than that. And we'll thank Owen for his input here from him. Maybe at the end of the race. Otherwise, if there's no opportunity, we'll say thank you very much. And see you next week. We'll wait and see. Next round, Australia, of course, as Senkovan and Sonny Leonard change position there briefly. Waiting for that call, whether the safety car will be in this lap or not. And it's been such a good start to the season for the Haas of Wongsvat Reversi. Dominated proceedings so far today and has shown utter domination. Looks like we might squeeze one more lap in here of safety car, we'll see. Haven't seen the call on my screen, that's for sure. It would be a relatively late one. Now it is a late one. So there we go. Safety car in this lap. And now, this is huge. When do you go? Restart is in the hands of Wongsavat Reversi, who was 12 seconds ahead, 16 seconds ahead when the safety car came out. He's got the Ferrari of Andreas Senkovan just behind him, the Haas of Sonny Leonardi's teammate behind that, and a charging man on soft tyres behind him. Here we go. We're back underway for 3 more laps worth of racing in APC round 1, and it's going to be all eyes on the Alpine trying to get himself in to the podium running, but there, down the inside line goes Sonny, and he's gone into the back of the Ferrari, who now falls down into 4th position and falls down even further. It's a spin. It's a spin for Senkovan, who's going to fall all the way into 8th position. There was contact, I believe, as all people. Corey Nichols is up into 3rd position, and suddenly he's in contention for the win of the race, as he's got Sonny Leonard just behind him trying to fight back in for the lead of this race, which is easier said than done, as there was a massive incident with that Ferrari. I'm not 100% certain whether there was any blame there on the side of the house, or whether potentially it's just a case of the Ferrari was spinning around as he tried to rejoin the circuit. Either way, we can see now that it's a less than optimal situation, but we keep with these 3 as it's so close between them. They're only 1.9 seconds from the lead of the race, but that 1.9 seconds is actually a pretty huge chunk, all things considered. They make their way out of the penultimate corner now. We catch back up with Lewis Smith, 4 tenths of a second. DRS will be enabled on the final lap of this one. The penultimate lap is coming up shortly. It's 2.2 seconds at the front of the field. So as it stands, Wongsavat Reversi looking at very comfortable. DRS now enabled, so it's just at the end of the first lap. DRS has now been enabled, and that's going to give the opportunity to the drivers just behind. Of course, it won't be available at this detection zone, but at the detection zone at the end of one of the longest pit straights on the Formula 1 calendar, and these 3 battling for 2nd position could not really be too much closer at this stage. Of course, Sonny Leonard is struggling a little bit with his medium tyres because he just needed to put the softs on. He knew that would have been a mistake, I'm certain, as I should say as well that Carl Stewart Woodward has made up a position into 5th spot, so a really good drive for him. He was telling me how much he was, relatively speaking, struggling at the end of that previous race. Not at the end of the previous race, excuse me, how much he was struggling in practice just to get used to this game. And now in 5th position, he's doing a very good job there, as almost opposite lock for the Alpine, who's really broken at DRS at this point. So now we can ride on board briefly with the Haas of Sonny Leonard, who might just be out of contention for this battle. He's got a 3-second time penalty as well, so that's really important. Whether that'll be removed in post, I'm not too sure. Some leagues do like to do that. I don't know what the running is here, depending on, of course, what that penalty is for. But if it's clearly for a bogus track limits call, then he might be called innocent. Starting his final lap of the race very shortly. Here's Wongsavat Reversi. What a performance it has been so far, but the DRS has been gained back for the Aston Martin. He's set the fastest lap of the race as well, 129.8. That's on the soft tyres. Is anyone going to snatch it away from him? Breaking the slipstream is reigning champion Lewis Smith, as he's caught a lot by the Aston Martin into turn 1. They're all locking up, all struggling, and look at that. It's 3 tenths of a second, barely anything in it between 2nd and 3rd, as he's still just weaving around as Kenneth, the Williams, received a 10-second time penalty for corner cutting, as a few drivers are bouncing around the order on the final lap of this race. But as it stands, it looks like it's between the Alpine and the Aston Martin for 2nd position, and the Aston Martin is absolutely giving everything to try and get himself ahead of the Alpine into the final lap of this race. Lap 29 of 29. That late safety car has completely thrown out the order. It was between only 3 drivers, as there's the dive, and the dive isn't going to quite work for him on the exit though. What can he do? Lewis Smith is going to have to defend. He's defended plenty of times before in this championship, and now has to defend again. On the outside goes the Aston Martin, forced to go the long way round, but isn't able to do so. A little bit of contact between the 2 of them, and now through the long right-hander they go, still looking to do whatever he can here as he goes down the inside line to Skyro Nichols. No way through there, and Lewis Smith holds on for the time being. Will pick up our race leader as he makes his way around the final corner. What a dominant drive. 5.2 seconds gained in just 2 laps, but it's so close. As, oh dear, there's contact, and the Aston Martin is going to be collected by the Haas, who now might just finish ahead on the line as they drag race to the line. It's Cairo Nichols in third, made contact with the Alpine of Lewis Smith as Andrea Senkovan has reclaimed fourth position. And that was an absolutely crazy race towards the end. Could barely see what had happened, but Lewis Smith with a fantastic drive. Wongsavat Reversi takes an unbelievable victory. All things considered, so dominant all the way throughout the day. And certainly a championship contender. I think that race probably told us who are championship contenders, generally speaking. As we see the podium presentation, what a drive for the Haas. The Aston Martin probably a little bit lucky. I wonder if there'll be any post-race penalties forthcoming after that. But right now, exciting stuff for the Haas team, who at least virtually celebrate with the champagne. And hopefully we'll get to hear from a couple of our drivers as well at the end of this race. We'll just remind you of the results very briefly once they pop up onto our screens. As it's the Haas of Wongsavat Reversi who takes a very dominant victory, 5.9 seconds in the end, ahead of reigning champion Lewis Smith. Third position is the Aston Martin, of course, of Cairo Nichols, with Andrea Senkovac sitting in fourth, with the Haas teammate of Lewis Smith finishing in fifth position. Looking further down, sixth place, of course, the Alpine of Kyle Stewart Woodward, so a very good drive for him. Let's go back over here because we're getting ready to do all of our post-race interviews and things like that. So if anyone is up to come and have their interview here in the stream, feel free to just pop into the waiting room and we'll get you dragged in and everything like that. And actually, we have Kyle with us first of all. Kyle, welcome along to the stream. First of all, my absolute apologies for butchering your name earlier on.
But it's happened. I'm used to it.
But second of all, very well done. I know you were telling me you were struggling a little bit, not necessarily struggling, but you were trying to gain confidence with the game and everything like that. With a sixth position, looks like that confidence has skyrocketed.
You know what?
We've lost Kyle for a moment. He's got himself muted indefinitely, so I can only imagine his cat's walked into his room or something. We'll speak to him in a moment. Let's bring Owen back in then while we wait for Carl to get his microphone sorted. Owen, that was fascinating strategy at the end. Obviously, we barely saw what happened with all of those drivers, but generally speaking, it was an utter melee.
Absolutely crazy end. Obviously, we saw the big contact between the Aston Martin, the Ferrari, and the Haas at the end. That was literally just caused by pure desperation. I've almost had the exact same thing. I've witnessed it before. I witnessed it in another league with my friend Alex Brown. Actually, was involved in it. 3 drivers went wide in the final lap for the race win in the final corner, and it just did not end well. They all ended up off the circuit, but what a crazy ending. That safety car threw an absolute monkey wrench into it is the best way to put it. And yeah, really good race and some really interesting strategies. We obviously saw a couple of drivers attempt the 2-stop, the highest of them being Lewis Smith. But other than that, yeah, a really good race, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Carl is sorted out. Carl, welcome back. Well, we'll go back to my question. Confidence being gained. As I do think we've got a couple of issues with either Carl's connection or his mic or something like that. And we'll give him a couple of moments. We've got another driver. So actually, I'll drag Carl out the call for a moment and we'll bring him back in during the next one. We've got another driver making his way in. It's LS W. Smith. Now, I'll have to, excuse me, LS. It's Lewis Smith. There you go. I've been given your Discord name. Thank you very much. That was an incredible drive. You're the reigning champion, and you've just got yourself a second position as well. To be honest with you, from nowhere. We were sat here in the box and we were thinking actually that maybe you'd miscalculated the strategy a bit, but you didn't miscalculate anything. That safety car helped you out and you capitalised.
Yeah, honestly, I got lucky with that safety car because I didn't think anybody was going to one stop, and then everybody decided they were going to one stop, and it was a bit of a mess on my behalf. But obviously, I got away with it today and then got the P2. But yeah, I can't really say much more because I honestly probably didn't deserve that the way before the safety car happened. I didn't deserve the P2, so we take what we can get, I guess.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's not bad to have an off day and still finish in P2. Generally speaking, that's quite a positive thing. But yeah, I mean, P2, obviously, the Haas just ahead of you. He was so quick today. There was not much we can really complain about there. In terms of your championship prospects for this season, obviously you'll be looking to go back to back. How do you think after that first race, it sort of shapes up on that side?
Yeah, the Haas is really quick and he's consistent as well. I think everybody in this league is quick as well. So it's just a case of consistency. And today that Haas was every single lap was a tenth up or 2 tenths up, and yeah, it was congratulations to him because that was a deserved win. But in terms of myself and the championship, I think as long as I can stay consistent, I think I'm in with the shot. But I think the constructors, obviously for myself and Kyle, is a big thing that we want to go and win as well this year. So not only also looking at the drivers, but mainly we want to win the constructors as well as.
Well, thank you very much, Lewis. We'll hopefully speak to you after another a victory at some point in the season.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Lewis. We'll drag Carl back in as Carl, hoping your microphone is sorted now. There you go. I can hear it.
It's not the first time my Xbox does this to me. It just seems to get really confused when I join Discord. So going forward, for the rest of the season, I will only join the waiting room on the PC. Lesson learned. I don't know how much you heard of what I said. I don't know how long I was talking to myself.
I think you're talking to yourself for pretty much all of it. So
Okay.
we'll go back to the point for the viewers who maybe have just joined or something like that. We basically said you wanted to gain confidence, and sixth position confidence definitely gained.
Yeah, I've always struggled at Bahrain. I'm not sure what it is about this track. It's never quite gelled. I think the last 2 seasons, I think I actually DNF'd. So I made a few changes, some setup changes, a bit more of a stable setup, and I just had to keep it on track, and just keep it clean, and that seems to be what made the difference. Annoyingly, right at the very beginning, literally turn 2, I had to go off track to avoid. I think it was Yordi facing the wrong way, and game gave me a 10-second penalty, which is extremely frustrating because there's nothing I could have done. And so in pit stop, and I came out of the pit stop, I was about 10 seconds off that P7 to P11 gaggle of cars, which is really frustrating because I could have been in that mix. But I fought my way back to P10, and then the safety car, I thought that was going to mess me up, so I only had a used set of softs left. But no, I just kept it clean, kept it on track, and ended up with P6. It was P5 until the last lap, but Chenky's he's extremely fast, so I wasn't expecting to keep him for too long. So I'm very happy with P6. This race was always just if I can get some points, get in the top 10, and to finish P6, that was probably the best I could have hoped for today. So some tracks coming up that I'm a bit better at. So hopefully we see some better results sort of going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, Lewis said that you were fighting for the Constructors' Championship. That's your goal. How much of a realistic goal do you think that is?
Oh, look, we've got obviously the reigning champion on my team. That's very helpful. I mean, I have won two team championships with Drew, and lastly we were leading for most of the season. So I think it's possible. I just got to keep getting top 10s. If I can get sort of around P5s, sort of P6s like today, keep that going all season. Let's get the wins. Then I think it's very possible. I mean, we're very good. I think we work together quite well. I don't know if you mentioned today, but he came up the pit behind me, and there was a car in between us, and I might have done a little bit of slowing up just to help my my teammate sort of get higher up on there. So I think between us, I think it's possible. It's going to be hard. I think looking at the teams that are out there, you've got the Hasses, they're really fast, and then the Ferraris. I think if anyone's gonna, if there's anyone worried about the most, it's probably the Ferraris. Like Ethan's been a runner-up twice in the championship, and Chenky came third last season despite only joining halfway through the season. But I tell you what, that was a good race. I saw so many different drivers up there. I think it's going to be a really good season because there are some really people this season.
Yeah, it was a very entertaining race. Thank you very much, Carl. I'll get into my head that your surname is
Can I
Stuart
ask
Woodward.
one quick question?
Oh, go on.
So I was saying all race, Carl, that tyre wear at Bahrain is so ridiculously high. As a driver in that race, just how high was it, and how quickly did the tyres die off?
It was really high. I think my mediums, if I remember correctly, I think it was lap 11. It was there's those softs at the very end on the safety car. I was debating whether I should wait another lap, but I did it early as possible, get it out of the way. And by the time the safety car
Yes, well, thank you very much, Carl. Hopefully we'll speak to you soon. I think you may have got out there at the end. I don't know if it was me. My internet seems to be not wanting to play ball
It
today.
cut out
Thank
for
you.
me as well.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you, Carl. We'll speak to you again soon. Yeah, well done today. There you are. I think he's. I think we've lost his line, unfortunately. But my thanks to, first of all, of course, APC for bringing me on for this. That was a very enjoyable first race. Of course, some teething issues that will be sorted out in due course. But for myself, Tom, Dillon from Owen as well, who's been a fantastic expert in the booth, so to speak. We thank you all very much for watching, and we'll see you all later. Good night.
See you later.